Hi guys, welcome back. So this is part 2. We're discussing the future of New Zealand, South Africa, Northern Hemisphere teams, just chewing the fat really. Check out part 1 where we talked about New Zealand selections, etc. That was great. Now we're going to talk about the world champions, the best team in the world, John. Okay, we'll talk about South Africa, and Zach, you are straight in with a question, I believe.
All right. I want to go straight in and discuss the new role for Erasmus, obviously moving to the director of rugby role. I've looked at a number of examples at international level, and I haven't found anywhere that has implemented the role effectively. And what I mean by that is you start to lose a little bit over the, I guess, the autonomy that the coach has, and that is starting to see that the director of rugby is starting to infringe on that a little bit. It gets into these weird power dynamics where, unfortunately, you start to see some less than cohesive teams. David Nusafora, good example of that, I think, and in Australia, similar kind of example. So what's your personal view on moving Rassie Erasmus to a director role, and how do you think they best manage that to ensure it's effective?
I think the situation is a little bit more unique than that. Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Nienaber, the new Springbok coach, they've known each other since I think they were 18. They did military service together. And they've been friends since then. And wherever Rassie's gone, Jacques Nienaber's gone. So when they went to Munster, he went across. So it's a little bit unique in that respect, is that they've got a long history together, and one's always worked really well underneath the other one. So I think when Rassie came back, obviously he came back as director of rugby. He didn't come back as a Springbok coach. And because, let's be honest, South Africa and rugby was in absolute shambles. We were losing games by 57 points. We haven't won a Super Rugby title since 2010. I'm trying to think. I think 1 year we came last in the Rugby Championship. So we were in a real bad place. The beauty of Rassie Erasmus, I think, is he's more analytical than he's got great IP, but I think he's a lot more cerebral, for want of a better word. So he thinks about things a lot more, whereas Jacques Nienaber was a little bit more hands-on. So I'm hoping it'll work. But like you said, it hasn't really worked anywhere else because of the power dynamics. But I think because they've got that long history together, I think it might be a little bit more of an easier fit.
Yeah, okay. Do you see any risks to it being successful, or any things or issues they need to steer clear of, or?
It's a difficult one. I think the South African game plan is based around defence. Jacques Nienaber is a defensive coach, so I think it's going to be more of the same. I think the defence is going to become probably a lot more intense, which is saying a hell of a lot. The one thing that really got to me was when they were chatting to Rassie Erasmus, and he said, no, he'll still be in charge of the tactics and things like that, and then Jacques will be more in control of the day-to-day. And obviously dealing with the public and the press, it'll be Rassie Erasmus. So I don't know. It's a lot of grey areas there, which is you're absolutely right. It doesn't create clear boundaries.
Why have they gone for this though? Because I think from a Northern Hemisphere point of view, the turnaround for South Africa was simply phenomenal. When they toured England a few years ago, they were just a shambles. You had players like Peter Steph du Toit. You'd never say they'd be World Player of the Year in a couple of years. And he turned them into absolute world beaters in his role as coach. And now they've moved him. It just doesn't. I didn't quite understand why they'd lose such a good thing. I don't know.
I think rugby in South Africa's, like I said, was in a real bad way. We didn't have the same kind of pathways. We were losing players left, right, and centre, and it's difficult to keep on to players if they're not earning enough money, and secondly, they're not winning. So, they're professionals, but you still want to win. So I think he was brought back to try to save South African rugby, and he's done it. And I think what he's also looked at, he's probably looked at the South African DNA a little bit closer and said, okay, play a forward-dominated game, a lot more physical, rock-solid defence, and and it seemed to work. So they had a complete game plan. He had a game plan for those 18 months of what they wanted to achieve. It's difficult now to have my crystal ball out because there's no rugby being played, so I don't really know what's going to happen in that respect. We'll have to see when we start having internationals again.
I'm a little more positive based on what you said on the role, because it actually sounds like the line's pretty clear. Rassie is the man, and unfortunately, can't be everywhere. So he's got someone that can help him with the day-to-day operations. Now that may not be ideal if you're an aspiring head coach, let's say, but it's a very clear line. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think with Jacques Nieuwouw has never been a head coach. So normally, you'd either be a Super Rugby coach. In all honesty, South Africa would never hire a non-South African as a Springbok coach. It will never ever happen. It would be probably a real cold day in hell before that would happen, and I'm sure the same would happen in New Zealand. But
maybe Owen Farrell, when he's retired, come and coach him.
So yeah, it's a tough one. I'd play a wait and see kind of approach, but I think it's a good fit because I just think Rassie does have a lot of RP. Really has a lot of rugby RP.
Okay, well this goes on quite nicely to my question. Rassie Erasmus, one of his big things he did was he picked foreign players. He said, I'm not doing this job unless I can pick my foreign players. And clearly that contributed to winning the World Cup. Without Faf de Klerk and Vermeulen, they probably wouldn't have won. But is that sustainable? I can see it working for tournaments like the World Cup where they all get together and have time. But for kind of one-off test matches, short series, is that sustainable, or will it start to adversely impact performance?
I think it's a multi-pronged kind of question. There's two ways to look at it. I think we had to get international based players. There was no way around it. I think Rassie must have spoken to the powers that be, because before that we used to have I think it was a 30 cap rule, and it was reduced to 10 for a short little period of time, but it was basically a 30 cap rule. But I think Rassie, the reality is, take a player like Andre Pollard. Andre Pollard, what's he on, a million euro contract? So that's 23 million rand back here. Andre Pollard playing in South Africa, maximum he can earn is 5 million rand. So we're talking almost 5 times an increase in the salary. So Rassie just turned around and said, listen, there's no point in trying to keep these players. Let's rather just have the international clubs pay for these players. Might as well. And then we just, I think it's Article 9 or Regulation 9, where clubs have to release international players for internationals, and we're just going to enforce it from that point on. For the smaller kind of one-off kind of tests, I don't think we're going to be bringing back some of the international players. But I think there's enough. There's more than enough depth in South Africa. There's some great players coming through, and I still think there's going to be a preference to having players that you've got more control of. I don't know if you guys are aware of the contracting system, how it works in South Africa now, how it's changed. Now, we used to have 1,000 plus contracts available for our players, and that's been reduced to, I think, just over 490, that's a big drop. And then they've identified, I think, 80, they're called pony players, players of national interest. So they take like a hooker position, and they choose five number twos in varying degrees of, say, Michael Marks at the top with, I can't even remember some of the hookers down a bit further down the line. And then their salary gets supplemented a little bit by SA Rugby. But how they look at it, they rather say, let Malcolm Marks go play overseas, because that money that we would have spent on Malcolm Marks, we can actually use for those other 4 players' development. So we've actually we've had to look at it differently. We don't have a strong currency. So yes, it's not ideal. It is the best to have your players here, but we're just not in that situation. The reality is our currency is in complete free fall, and we've got to adapt to the changing situations.
Well, it sounds like they have a plan and they're sticking to it. So that's better than not having a plan at all and just letting people go. So promising. Zach, have you got another question about the world champions?
Yeah, give us some insight into schoolboy rugby. I mean, I've always, I don't follow it closely, but from what I do see, there's real dominance there from the South African teams, and in particular over a lot of the good, really, really good New Zealand teams. So, just tell us a little bit about what you think makes schoolboy rugby in South Africa so strong. Is there anything culturally or as part of the wider rugby environment you think you can point to, or what's really making South African rugby at that level strong?
Schoolboy rugby is huge. There's a game just up the road from me between the two big schools in Paul Boys and Paul Gymnasium. You can have 20,000 people come watch that game. And it's a schoolboy game. 20,000 people, and that's every year. It's not like just once off. Every year, the 20,000 people come watch this one specific game because it's such a big game. So if you're looking at schoolboy rugby, there's dedicated coaches, there's dedicated conditioning coaches, and a lot of these schools now look more as how would I put it? It's almost like it's not a college for rugby, an academy. So it's almost they're producing Springboks. That's their goal. There's about 20 top schools in South Africa competing. Gray's College is another one that's probably the most successful school in South Africa. There's Bloemfontein. That's why most the Cheetahs always get the best players, but they lose them to all the other unions because they just don't have the money to keep them. So, but schoolboy rugby is huge. There is a dark side to it. There has been a lot of drug abuse, anabolic steroids, and things like that. And it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. The reason being is there's only 500 contracts available in South Africa, and you've got, say, 10 eligible kids per school. That's 200 coming out every year. So the math just doesn't make sense. So the other big thing is take Gray's College. Now, Gray's College have a scholarship from Montpellier. So you've got all these international clubs coming, watching these players and taking them on because of the 5-year rule. Get them across when they're 18. By 23, they're eligible to play for France, and done. But yes, schoolboy rugby is huge.
That doesn't sit right, though, Don, having a French-based club having a deal with your main South African feeder schools. It just seems completely wrong. I know it happens in places like Fiji and whatnot. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I just think the quality of the schoolboy rugby is so good, and the currency is so weak that they're gonna pick these guys up for an absolute song. In South Africa, when they leave school or anything, they can go into varsity cup, so they can go that route, and then they get a degree at the end. But a lot of them are probably going to go into the club system or start Currie Cup level, and starting at about 10,000 rand, they can go play 3rd division in France and earn 10 times more than that. So and that's probably also a reason why there's a lot of anabolic steroid abuse, because they want to get these players through as quickly as possible, and the parents are putting pressure on. So it is a little bit dark. It is a little bit dark, and the problem is that South African schoolboy rugby falls outside of South African rugby, so it's not part of the system. So sorry, can't go there and say, listen, we want to do drug tests on all your players. They can only do that during Craven work and under 20s and things like that. So it's difficult. It's a tough thing, but there's a lot of things that player stealing, player poaching. And the other thing is, in South Africa, what people don't realize is you normally when you're about 14, 15, you get picked on size. You don't get picked on skill. So you're always celebrating the big guys, the big locks and the big blind sides. And so eventually these are the guys that actually get the focused training, and these are the guys that actually, when they're 18, come into the system.
Yeah, I mean, just to deviate slightly, I can't even remember the book. A psychologist in America, can't remember what it's called. I'll have to come back to it. But they're talking about how kids who are kind of older in their year, in like September, October in their year, because they're bigger, they're getting all this extra coaching, and then they get picked for a team, they get more extra coaching, and then after like 5 years of school, you have this huge imbalance between the big guys who are just mature and the guys who get left behind. It's a fascinating subject for sure.
I think obviously there's a lot of inequality history based in South Africa, and it would be nice that SARU obviously spent money, because the top 20 schools are the top schools. You know, they're affluent schools. You know, they're not. It'd be nice if they could start some kind of league where we can start bringing players that just don't have the same kind of opportunities, and maybe that's where SARU could obviously try focus in on. You know, try broaden the base.
Appreciate the insight on that one, Don.
I think the book was Outliers, actually. Ever heard of that? Malcolm Gladwell?
I haven't heard of that, but sounds
really
interesting. Sounds right.
Yeah, kids in sports and how when they're more physically mature, they just get more and more opportunities and get people get left behind.
Yeah.
Anyway, finally from me, let's talk about next year, maybe in the autumn, maybe in the summer, who knows, the British and Irish Lions Tour. Now, for us, this is everything. This is by far, it's better than the World Cup for me. It's better than the Six Nations. I get more excited with the Lions Tour than anything else. Is that the same in South Africa? Is it as big for the players and the fans?
Yes, I'll be completely honest. It is, especially the players. The players are really looking forward to it. You know, you probably only, if you're lucky, you get to face a Lions side once in your entire career. You know, even when the Lions go play in New Zealand, or even when they played in Australia, that's a big thing here as well. So because it's the Lions, you know, it's the best of the North coming down to play our minnows down in the South. So but yeah, everyone's looking forward to the tour. I'm hoping to get tickets. I just know that they're going to be super expensive. They might be sold out in the first day, but even if I just get to watch the Stormers, who aren't my favorite team in the world, but even if I get to watch them playing the midweek side, that would just be absolutely worth it.
Sorry, did you say South Africans put it above the World Cup? Is that what you said?
I beg your pardon?
Did you say that South Africans put it above the World Cup in terms of
No. No, the players, I don't think they put it above a World Cup. World Cup's still a World Cup, let's be honest. You know, it is the pinnacle. It's, you know, you've got to win 7 games in a row. Well, now it's 6, but it's, you know, it's the pinnacle of thing. But yeah, Lions Tour is a Lions Tour. You literally only get to see it every 12 years in South Africa.
I wouldn't put it above winning a World Cup. I mean, but the event for me is bigger. That's kind of what I'm saying.
I think it's one of the few tournaments where you could be in your own home stadium and have fewer supporters supporting you. So, because it's just the sea of red that are there, and it's a completely different. There's a whole complete thing around it. So I'm seriously looking forward. I'm hoping it still goes through. I'm sure it will. But yeah, because if you look how much revenue a Lions Tour brings, I think in New Zealand it basically doubled the revenue for that year, and the revenue it goes from 700 million to 1.4 billion. That's a huge, big cash injection for South Africa. So it is big for South Africa in that respect.
I mean, it should be amazing. It could well be captained by Owen Farrell, I'm afraid, Don, which should add some spice to it. Could well be. I mean, it's true. I always say the favourites are the home team, purely because getting that coordination between a completely scratch side is even harder now than it was before. Should be slightly easier without the time lag, but I think you guys are putting 2 of your tests at massive altitude, aren't you?
We always do. That's our secret weapon. It's our secret weapon is altitude. So, of course, we're going to put
world champions. You're the favourites for me. Are you the favourites? Do you think? I think you are.
You know what? It's tough. It's tough because I think England have an incredible depth, and I think most of the lines are probably going to be made up of quite a lot of English players. So if we have a similar kind of team to the Rugby World Cup and it's a similar kind of game plan, I think it's going to be difficult playing at altitude against that kind of rush defense. I think it's going to be hard.
Oh, look, I think South Africa's favourites for sure. Only because the touring format is difficult. You know, if we've seen anything in the in New Zealand side, it's not easy. And to the credit of the Lions, the last tour, it was very, very good result. But coming into a home country, that barrage of media and fans, it's a cauldron. It's not easy.
I mean, the stuff that Gatland got in New Zealand, it absolutely shocked me, to be honest. It really did. Not necessarily from the fans, but from the media. But I think Gatland's advantage, I guess, is he's done this a lot before, and he knows to get the base. The Lions will start with a very basic game plan. It's going to be set piece, it's going to be defence, it's going to be kicking. The question is, that's kind of South Africa's thing. So, are you just going to be slightly worse than them at what they're trying to do? So, it's good. It's just fascinating. The whole thing is fascinating. Okay. So, any other questions for South Africa for Don?
Not for me.
Well, we're on about 20 minutes, so I think that was about the same for New Zealand. So, thank you very much, Don. That was fantastic. Really interesting stuff. I hope you guys listening found that interesting as well, especially if you're not a South Africa supporter. Brilliant. So that's me, part 2. We're going to come back with part 3, where the guys are going to start grilling me about Northern Hemisphere stuff. So join us for that.